we present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Nicholas Parsons, and Sheila Hancock in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is this week's chairman, Clement Freud.
Thank you for that tremendously warm welcome. Let me just remind you how this game is played. Each panelist is going to be given a subject and will have to talk about it for 60 seconds without deviating from it, without hesitating, and without repeating himself. And the first subject today goes to the newest member of the panel, who is actually the oldest chairman we ever had, Nicholas Parsons. Nicholas, will you speak for 1 minute on the Blarney stone, starting now?
The Blarney stone is a piece of rock in a castle in a village outside Cork in Southern Ireland. It is considered that if you manage to kiss this particular Blarney stone...
Hesitation.
Unfair!
Great pleasure. Hesitation.
Can we just... Derek, I believe you challenged.
Yes, I challenge on the grounds of hesitation.
You have the subject of the Blarney stone. You have 47 seconds to go, starting now.
When I first met Blarney Stone, it was in a small castle in Southern Ireland. The very first...
Nick, you buzz.
I've said repetition. I've said Southern Ireland. I've said a small
This
castle.
was a gentleman called Blarney Stone.
Yes, but I have already said Southern Ireland.
Stop arguing. Nick, you get a point. You've got 41 seconds on the Blarney stone, starting now.
If you...
Derek, you buzzed.
Hesitation.
Shut up. Nick, you have another point, the Blarney stone. Now.
How are you, Kenneth? All right? Just tell them you're here. Say something to me.
I'm perfectly all right,
Good.
Sheila. I'm listening, though. Go on.
If you kiss the Blarney stone, it's considered that you have the gift of eloquence.
Derek, you buzzed.
Well, he said if you kissed before.
That's absolutely correct.
Well,
Derek,
I love kissing. I mean...
Derek has another point. He has the Blarney stone. He has 34 seconds, starting now.
This particular piece of masonry was hewed from the earth some 789 years ago, come next Pancake Tuesday. The interesting thing about it, that in attendance at the time was the Thane of Thward, which is one of the smaller villages outside...
Kenneth, you challenged.
A deviation. There aren't any Thanes in Ireland. It's the Scots term.
Well done.
Kenneth, you have a point. You have 18 seconds, and the Blarney stone, starting now.
This stone has its name, Blarney, which is connoted in Ireland with to mull over, to, so to speak, gloss and add...
Derek, you buzz.
Repetition 2 twos. 4.
I think that's right, actually. Yes, Derek, you have another point. You have the Blarney stone for 6 seconds, starting now.
Early in the 19th century, there was a determined attempt by a group of Englishmen to steal this piece of rock and bring it back to...
Repetition of a piece of rock. He said it before.
He did. You get a point. You have 2 seconds. The Blarney stone, starting now.
It is also considered you have the gift of the gab.
As Nicholas was talking while the whistle went, he gets another point, and he shares the lead with Derek Nimmo, and they are just ahead of Kenneth Williams, and Sheila Hancock is there.
Bottom.
Still.
Yes, go on,
No,
say it. I don't care. I don't care.
It's all a bit creepy, isn't it, though?
Sheila, it's your turn.
Oh,
The subject is magic for 1 minute, starting now.
this is something with which I could not do without. To start with, you have the sort of conjuring magic. Ow!
Derek,
Get
you buzz.
off.
I'm afraid so. Derek, you have a point. You have magic. 54 seconds, starting now.
I remember going to the Roman Empire in the old days, and there seeing wonderful magicians standing there, pulling out of bags rabbits, out of the sleeves of their...
Kenneth, you buzz.
2 outs.
2 outs, I quite agree.
Kenneth, I will give no more duplication of prepositions.
He said 2.
Derek has the subject back.
Oh,
46
dear.
seconds.
play it like that, is he?
Magic, starting now.
2 little gnomes and 1 pixie held a wand high in the air.
Sheila.
Deviation, this isn't true.
It's magic.
Gnomes and pixies. You've never met a gnome in your life apart from Kenneth.
Sheila, you're absolutely right. He's never met a gnome in his life. You have the subject. You have 36 seconds on magic, starting now.
There are certain people who have magic, like Clement Freud. He has a great magic.
Deviation. Clement Freud has no magic.
It's another point to Sheila. 31 seconds. Sheila, starting now.
Kenneth Williams has it off and on. Derek has it mainly off. We also sometimes say in the theatre, the magic happened tonight, which means that a sort of communion happens between you and the audience. It's nothing to do with how you work, it's just something that happens. The other day, my little girl was watching her daddy doing a card trick, and I explained to her how the card trick was done, because I'm an immensely practical mum.
Nick, you buzzed.
Repetition of card trick.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Very ungallant, but
Yes.
in town it's...
Well, she was going for a
Oh,
long
yes.
time.
Well, Nick, you have magic for 6 seconds. And another point, starting now.
Some of the best magic you can see comes from television. The other girl has to say...
Derek, you
Deviation.
challenge.
It doesn't.
You know, it's terribly unfair of me to judge.
You've got to make the decision, love.
I have made the
I'll tell you what, do score no points like I do and leave the
Shut
second
up,
to me.
Derek, you have the subject for 1 second, magic, starting now.
Houdini was a very great.
And as Derek was talking, while the whistle went, he gets another point, and Kenneth gets the next subject. Will you speak for 1 minute, please, on laughter, starting now?
This sometimes happens through serendipity and sometimes through the machinations or otherwise of professional comedians. Roby came on once and said my last audience simply adored me. The reception I got was sublime. They made me a present of Mornington Crescent and threw it a brick at a time. Other notable comedian, Nellie Wallace.
Nick, you challenged.
Repetition of comedian.
I said comedian.
Comedian.
Well, Kenneth, you have another point. You have 33 seconds. Nicholas, be quiet. 33 seconds on laughter, starting now.
And she cried out, I'm in the garden watching the birds, wheeling and turning, waiting for them to drop a message by carrier pigeon. And they said, waiting for it, you're asking for it. And laughter was produced with these wonderful lines. Such a nice young man he was, always held me purse, said the change did him good. Another laugh get up. Indeed, it's the most healthy sound that ever issued forth from the human body.
Kenneth Williams gets another point because he was speaking while the whistle went, which puts him 1 point behind Nicholas and a few points behind Derek.
So I'm creeping
Nimmo.
up, really, aren't I?
You're creeping up, and Derek Nimmo is in
Less
the
of
lead
creeping, if you don't mind.
No, sorry.
and has the next subject, which is hobgoblins. Will you speak about hobgoblins for 1 minute, starting now?
Source of great regret to me that people these days tend not to believe in fairies and gnomes and pixies, and in particular in hobgoblins. But all of you here who are privileged to look at Kenneth Williams tonight will know without any doubt they do still exist. What is a hobgoblin? A small...
Nicholas, you challenge.
Deviation. I don't believe that Kenneth Williams is a hobgoblin. I think he's a human being.
This is not a game in which you spread your beliefs. Derek, you have another point. You have hobgoblins. You've got 41 seconds, starting now.
A small, ugly, mischievous demon is a hobgoblin. And that is what we see here.
Sheila.
I'm not going to have that. He's not ugly.
Sheila, you're quite right. You have a point. You've got the subject. You've got 35 seconds, starting now.
Hobgoblins are little... Oh, go on, I know.
My hesitation.
You're an absolute...
You are a swine, Nimmo. Sheila has another point. She has another hobgoblin. She has 30
I don't know what to
seconds
say about
starting
hobgoblins.
now.
Goblins that live in the hob. They sit on the kettle and bubble. That's what hobgoblins are. They have little horns and red trousers. They walk around in the
Derek,
fireplace.
your challenge.
Well, a hesitation, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm afraid
I
it
do
was
have to
hesitation.
breathe, you
Yes,
know.
I know.
Derek, you have another point. 18 seconds. Hobgoblins starting
In
now.
the Sun King's court.
Nick, you challenge.
Hesitation.
You have a point. You have hobgoblins, 15 seconds.
These hobgoblins all
Nick.
came down to this...
Nick.
big pond.
You have 15 seconds starting now.
These hobgoblins all came down to this big house.
Derek, you challenge.
Repetition, you just said it.
Nick, you have another point. 13 seconds on hobgoblins starting now.
These particular creatures came into this house with the three
Derek,
lads.
you challenge.
Repetition, he says, yeah.
That, I think, really was repetition. Derek, you have a point. You have 10 seconds on hobgoblins starting now.
The Gobelin tapestries were the most famous creations.
Nick, you challenge.
No,
I
didn't
challenged you.
Kenneth.
Yes, because he wasn't saying goblin, he said gobelin.
I think Gobelin is absolutely legitimate.
Well, then why haven't we been saying that all along? Why have we all been saying goblin?
Cousins of the subject.
You're no
Which is-
gent.
I'm a gentleman. And Derek has another point. And you have 8 more seconds starting now.
And Jacques Aubes was the most famous tapestry worker and the most sought after.
Nick, you challenge.
Repetition of tapestry.
Oh,
That's quite right. You have another point. You have the subject. 3 seconds starting now.
The three lads lived in this house and their names were Ken, Clem.
Nicholas gets another point because he was speaking while the whistle went. He's now 3 points behind Derek and some way ahead of Sheila Hancock, who is just ahead of Kenneth Williams.
Oh, am I? Oh.
And Nicholas has the next subject. Will you speak for 1 minute, please, on crumpets? Starting now.
Crumpets are absolutely delicious. Well toasted with plenty of butter on them. You can have them for pretty well any meal you like. I love them myself. Of course, in the Midlands, they're usually referred to as pikelets. In other parts of the country, they're sometimes called muffins. In the singular, this word has a quite different meaning. It usually means a woman of very easy virtue. And if you enter any script at all, it is sure to get a laugh. Immediately you get a reaction from the audience if you say the word crumpet. If you put this into a thing on the radio, you will find...
Sheila, you challenge.
Hesitation.
You get a point, you get the subject, you have 25 seconds on crumpets starting now.
One of my happiest memories as a child was Sunday tea, when we always had crumpets or muffins and butter with honey on. My father used to cook them with a knife, and he used to scream all the while because he always burnt his hand. And nothing would induce him to use the toasting fork. It was part of the ritual. Always used to drop off, and we always burnt at least 3 crumpets out of the packets of 6. But it was a thing that we enjoyed very much. We then used to put them on a plate in the hearth, and all the butter soaked through.
Sheila, you get another point because you were talking
Oh,
while the
and you
whistle
were also
went.
gallant, because I did say always an awful lot.
Did
I
you?
know.
I
Yes,
didn't
you
know. I
did.
thought it was
Loud.
healthy.
The whole thing. Mouths were watering. I could feel the butter.
You're now... Sheila is now substantially in 3rd place behind Nick, who is definitively in 2nd place behind Derek Nimmo, who is currently in the lead. Sheila, you start the next round with landladies.
Oh.
Will you speak for 1 minute on landladies starting now?
These are both the terror and the delight of my life. Most of my early days have been spent in digs, as I'm sure most of the people on this panel. When you're in the theatre, you don't have a home at all until you settle in the West End. And from the day I was 16, I lived in digs. Oh, yes.
Derek, you bust.
Repetition.
Derek, you have the sound for 43 seconds. Landladies starting now.
During the war, we used to have a lot of land girls working on the fields of...
Kenneth.
Deviation, subject is land ladies, not land girls.
May I please substantiate that?
You could have had him for hesitation, but for deviation, I won't give it. Derek, you get another point. You have
Gave
landladies.
him deviation on me.
39 seconds starting now.
As they matured and aged, they became landladies. And a splendid job of work they did.
Kenneth.
Deviation, they never began as land girls to become land ladies. Such a maturity did not occur.
quite sure.
I think they could quite easily have become landladies.
They certainly didn't, I'm telling you, Ducky.
Girls of Thomas, I'm with you.
Yes, I happen to know you weren't alive at the time.
No, it's absolutely true. I wasn't. Derek, you have another point.
Oh, he's with him, isn't he? Oh.
It's nepotism. Yeah. It's an old nepot, you can see it from here.
You have nepotic landladies for 33 seconds starting now.
Mrs. McFadgen, who lives in Glasgow, keeps a lovely house with a warm bed sitting room where I go and stay every time I'm there. And there I have teas brought into me, a lovely cold fire to warm my cold hand. I remember going back there on a Tuesday evening in Lent, and the funny thing was that she'd given up fish for Lent, and I said, how very kind, and I've said it twice, and I'm going to be stopped.
Kenneth.
2 Lents.
2 Lents. You have a point. You have a subject. You have 3 seconds starting now.
The best landlady I ever met was Sheila Hancock when she played the landlady in the review I was in with her.
You know, I never thought we would get to the end of the landladies, but we have. And Derek is now really rather extravagantly in the lead.
Really very odd. 'Cause
Derek,
I know
you have
about
the next
those
subject.
apes
Will you
of
speak
gold.
for 1 minute on taking risks? And will you start now?
Well, of course, I do think of all the great truisms, this one is perhaps the most true, that one should always try to take risks. And we have done tonight, for instance. We have sitting up there as our chairman, Clement Freud, looking like a reincarnation of Genghis Khan.
Kenneth, you challenge.
Deviation. Clement Freud does not look like the reincarnation.
You
of
needn't go
Genghis
on.
Khan.
You have a point. Kenneth, you have 42 seconds on taking risks starting now.
This involves, of course, vulnerability, and it's something about which I am an authority. Whenever one takes a step, be it into the middle of the road, there is the danger that we might be run over or...
Sheila.
Deviation is a pretty funny step that gets you right into the middle of the road.
Sheila, you have a point. Taking risks, 22 seconds starting now.
One of the most classic examples.
Serves you right, and he's so cocky.
Derek, you challenged for
He
hesitation.
hits me all the time. You do.
When have I
I can feel you wobbling.
Will you stop?
Deviation.
He flies his arms around and wriggles. Go on,
They've
then,
stopped
go
wriggling
on.
now, Derek. You have the subject back. Taking risks, 21 seconds starting now.
Well, another risk that we've taken tonight is having that genial Nicholas Parsons on the panel.
Nick, you challenge.
A hesitation before the nit and also deviation for the Nicholas Parsons nit.
Nicholas Parsons gets the subject, 16 seconds on taking risks starting now.
I took a very big risk when I decided to become on the chair of this particular program and allow Clement...
Kenneth, you challenge.
To become on the chair. To become on the chair? What's he going to do on this chair? I want to know. What's he going to become? I'm waiting for an ectoplasm.
You have...
Something smells like a bit of addict up here, too. Someone
Kenneth?
brought their tea with them.
You
What's
have,
the idea?
you have made your point, you have got your point, you've got the subject, you have 11 seconds. Taking risks starting now.
And all our lives we go out with this terrible misfortune hanging o'er our heads like a sword of
Derek, you
Damocles.
challenge.
Deviation. We all haven't got this terrible misfortune. Only Kenneth Williams has this terrible misfortune. Hanging about him.
No, I think that's not a valid, deviation.
Well,
You have the
okay,
subject back, you have an extra point, you've only got 3 seconds. I'm with you, starting now.
But if you wear a lucky charm and keep your picker up, you'll think to yourself, well, I'll get some
Kenneth, you have leapt past Sheila Hancock.
Oh, am I the lead?
No.
No, you don't overdo
You're just
it. You
not
have
bottom.
leapt past Sheila Hancock.
Well, who is in the lead?
Derek, who is in front of Nick.
How does he do it? I mean, his performance has been totally inept.
He breathes down your neck
Nicholas,
with nepotism.
Nicholas, you have plenty of chance
He
to
keeps
breathe
wobbling
down
next
people's
to her
necks
over there. He's
because you
wobbling.
have the next subject. It is gibberish. And you may talk about gibberish for 1 minute without deviating, without hesitating, and without repeating yourself for a period of 60 seconds starting now.
Quand j'entends oui, son complet voix. J'entends faire en école, parce que c'est rien, oui, oui. J'entends faire en fait de voix. Oh, j'entends faire en école aussi, j'entends oui. Pour ton amour, on t'entend faire en jeune ami, j'entends faire en école de voix. On m'en fait un peu de vie, on t'entend faire de voix.
Derek, you challenge. Nick. Nick, you were challenged about 48 seconds
I couldn't
ago. Otherwise, you would have gone on. You challenged.
On the grounds of repetition. Repetition.
Yes, I was omelette sur le visage.
I think I must give you the point, Derek Nimmo.
I didn't repeat anything the whole time. It was pure gibberish.
But
Pure.
as
Pure.
it continued to be gibberish, it was repetition, and therefore Derek
for
has
you,
the subject.
Clem. Good for you
53
for doing
seconds
that.
starting
Sweating
now.
a bit.
Fortune
isn't
blood,
it?
come around, Clement Freud, Nicholas Parsons, can you stand up, Glad nothing is one, but la fauna carpacino, 1, 2, la petita, down, but 2 o'clock and 4 in the right, around the bottom, around the body, around the monkey
Derek, you're nowhere near the end because Nick challenged you. And I think on the same grounds, I must give it to Nick.
I challenge him in exactly the
Yes,
same grounds.
exactly.
But
I mean-
actually, I can substantiate my challenge. Actually, ha, 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 ha. That is definitely...
I've already given it to you. You're in danger of losing it. But you have got it for 38 seconds gibberish starting now.
Grancio mangiaro, peramente barto, sconziotto armere, fantoro, canticcio mangiata venti, manioro, confiutno manzitti impentero.
Derek, you challenged.
Repetition of O.
Nick, you have an extra point. You have the subject. You have another 28 seconds starting now.
This is a most fascinating subject. Gibberish is, of course, the obliteration of sense, and you put words together in such conjunctivation that you do not understand them. The audience is mystified, puzzled beyond
Kenneth,
words.
you challenged.
Conjunctivation. Conjunction exists. Conjunctivation doesn't.
It does in my vocabulary.
Kenneth, you have a point. You have
Something
the
wrong with your
subject.
eyes.
Conjunctive.
What did you say?
Kenneth, gibberish for
Conjunctivation is
18
not
seconds
gibberish.
starting now.
I really don't understand it, but if somebody says, Tribble, very quickly, the Asian British sparkle with a wax, or Ulysses, stop it the eardrum, in order to pass the siren,
Nick, you challenged.
Well, I get him on the same as before, repetition.
No, you don't.
Not
Kenneth,
at
you
all.
have another point. You have 12 seconds to go starting now.
Then I would say positive focus trends up in the early morn, with waking thoughts of clarity in the Milo.
Nick, you challenged.
Repetition is already said. That cuts it up to know that all the Bible over.
Kenneth has another point and is creeping up very quickly indeed. 9 seconds to go starting now.
In the luxury flabber block with a dangly chandelier he lived, Harry the Acres and Catherine of Arabold.
Nick, you challenged.
Hesitation.
Hesitation is right. You get another point, Nick. You've got 1.5 seconds starting now.
If you can talk about gibberish for 1.5...
That brings us to the end of this edition of Just a
About
Minute.
time, too.
The winner, let's do it in the reverse order, as was done by Nicholas Parsons, who was once chairman of this program. And
propose a
in
vote of
fourth
thanks.
place was
Clement.
Sheila Hancock. In third place, Kenneth Williams. And in second place, 1 point behind this week's winner was Nicholas Parsons. Which means that the winner this week was Derek Nimmo.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Clement Freud. The program was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by Simon Brett.